Welcome into the NFL Opening Line Report. NFL Week 2 is here. I am Drew Martin, like always joined by Teddy Covers as we're getting you ready, opening line style, for where these numbers are going on the Week 2 slate. Teddy, I'll tell you, we've done a little, through the preseason, some updates in the offseason, Week 1 NFL Opening Line Report. But really, I think you can make the argument this is the true opening to the NFL Opening Line Report, just because we get the reaction after Week 1. It's very important, this show moving forward. But either way, happy Monday morning to you, Teddy. Welcome on in.
Yeah. Today, we're going to have realistic and real emergency betting alerts on today's show. The markets, exactly. The WagerTalk live odds screen lit up like a Christmas tree about an hour ago. We're going to talk about where the money is going, when most importantly, why is the money flowing the way that it's flowing? We'll go through all 16 games for the Week 2 slate. I'm with you, Drew. The old numbers, Week 1 lines, they were a little bit stale. These are fresh numbers. I'm going to give you the look-ahead line for every game, my powering number for every game. I'm going to give you the numbers that are posted right now on the WagerTalk live odds screen, the current numbers and the openers. But before I do that, Drew, I do want to talk one thing at the top, and that's home field edge. All right. Home field, we think about historically was a 3-point edge. And then it was a 2.5-point edge. And then it was a 2-point edge. In the modern marketplace, it's more like a 1.5-point edge. Home teams went 5-10 straight up this week going into Monday Night Football. ATS home teams 3-12 against the spread. So whatever rationale you're thinking about a game, the concept, they're at home, they'll beat them at home this week. Don't play that game. All right. Home teams, 20% ATS year to date in the NFL. Definitely something worth noting.
Teddy, I almost feel like, why is that happening? Is it the travel accommodations for the NFL are just so comfortable? Is it like more of a corporate atmosphere at the game, so maybe it's not as loud and affecting the offense? Can you put anything behind it, or is it just, hey, one of those trends, be aware of it, and no real reason?
Oh, there's a real reason behind it. The real reason behind it is because the athletes today have played in hostile venues from when they were in high school.
Okay.
40 years ago, you had a kid goes to high school, he goes to college, he goes to the NFL. He hasn't played in a true hostile venue until he gets to the pros. In the modern era, you play, the kids that are playing in the NFL, they played real road games in high school where the crowd was nuts, and they did it all through college where the crowd was nuts. So I think it's simply more experience in hostile environments, and that matters when it comes to a point spread that's shaded towards home teams, in my opinion. But it's just a theory. No one can say for sure. That's my theory.
It makes sense. You'd be as good as anybody to answer that question with your track record here in the NFL and what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're laying down. I think there's some truth to that. And Teddy, this year, are we hitting the Monday night game, or are we going right into Thursday night, Sunday games? You want to throw out?
We can talk Monday night real quick. We've seen some under money tonight. We should talk just very quick at the top. We've seen some under money for this ball game. Two-way action right now for the Jets and the Bills. I've got a play up on the side over at WagerTalk.com for $9 if you want to get my side opinion for this. 2-1 yesterday, another solid Week 1 for the clients. From a total standpoint, we are seeing under money. So there is some urgency if you like the under. You can still find 45s out there. The prevailing number down to 44.5. But again, some urgency. This isn't a race to the window if you want to bet the under. There are 45s out there for line shoppers as we speak, and I don't see dramatic urgency to bet this one under the total. There we go. Monday night, we took care of it.
$9 Monday, guys. Check out Teddy's side. I'm on the total as well, so go grab both of those discounted plays. WagerTalk.com. Drew Martin, Teddy Covers as we are starting the NFL Opening Line Report game to game, going down in rotation order using the WagerTalk live odds screen. 8:15 Eastern, 5:15 Pacific. Thursday night, September 14th, Minnesota Vikings at the Philadelphia Eagles. 48.5 being the total here, Teddy. 7 in the hook, pretty much across the board right now as we're talking Monday, 1 o'clock Eastern time. That is the Eagles at home in Philadelphia. Short week. What are we thinking? Vikings, Eagles, Teddy.
Look ahead line. And again, the look ahead line is a line that was bettable line that was posted on this game before yesterday's games were played. So it gives you a true perspective of what the initial power rate numbers for these two teams were prior to this past week one action. So the look headline was Philly -7. My powering number has Philly -8. Last night, we're looking at 7.5, 48.5, and we're still looking at basically the same numbers today. So the markets haven't moved a whole lot on this game. Certainly some concerns on the Minnesota side for the equation. They didn't really have a running game yesterday against Tampa. 14 rushes for 34 yards for the backs, 44 pass attempts, despite the fact they were never trailing by more than one score. They didn't trust the team to run the football. -3 in turnovers, certainly a problem for the Vikings. And, of course, tie game at home in the fourth quarter, 3 and out, allow field goal, then a game-winning clock-killing drive to lose. So problems on both sides of the ball during crunch time for Minnesota. Again, this is a team that went 11-0 in one-score games last year. Now they're 0-1 in 2023. And a key injury for the Vikings, center Garrett Bradbury got hurt. They re-signed him in the offseason, and his injury status doesn't look particularly good right now. That's a concern for Minnesota's offensive line, especially against Philly's defensive line, which for periods yesterday controlled the game against New England. And then they kind of got pushed around a little bit once the Patriots got some rhythm. The offense didn't click in that ball game. They went 3 and out on 4 straight possessions in the first half. They had only 4 games last year. One game last year with 4 3 and outs. And they did it on 4 straight possessions last week against New England. But, of course, the starters didn't play at all for Philly in the preseason. And it showed. That was an uneven performance for the Eagles. After the game, Jalen Hurts, quote, talking about figuring out the new identity for the new team, quote, that's something that we're navigating. We're going to continue to grow, and it's always better when you win. Philly certainly didn't look overly impressive in the opener, but on paper, man, that Eagles team is a team that's difficult for me to step in front of.
Teddy, we're moving to the Sunday, September 17th slate. We'll start with the 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific kicks, get into the afternoon slate. Sunday nighter and Monday nighter coming up on the Week 2 NFL slate. Rotation order 263, 264. LA Chargers, Tennessee Titans here, Teddy. We are seeing the Chargers -3.5. Looks like in all the books in Las Vegas. -3 in juice in all the offshore books. As we're talking right now, 45.5 being the total. 2 teams coming off tight losses. Titans losing by 1, Chargers losing by 2. What are we thinking top of the card on Sunday?
And both teams coming off losses that were perfectly on brand for both squads. Chargers going to Charger. Titans are going to play in low-scoring defensive struggles that are decided by less than a field goal. That's just the nature of these two teams. Look ahead. Chargers -3, -20. Which, again, it opened 3 or 3 -20, and some books have moved to 3.5. Many books, as you mentioned, have moved to 3.5. My powering numbers are pure 3 on this ball game. Total 45. We've seen a little bit of over money. I mean, the Chargers, but it's been more Chargers money than over money. And look, the Chargers, there's so much star power on that team. Dominant showing from the offensive line against Miami. 11-play touchdown drive over the second half, 10 runs. That said, listen to this quote from Tua after the game talking about the Chargers defense. Tua about LA, quote, "It's the first game. You don't necessarily know what to expect from their team. They ran almost everything that we've seen watching film. So it feels good." Of course, that defense got annihilated. Miami has 9 plays of 21-plus yards. And some of it was, magical performances. And a couple of amazing catches from Tyreek Hill and company. But the bottom line is that Chargers defense got absolutely lit up, which Tennessee's defense didn't. I mean, that was a tough physical defensive performance. Offensively, they had a lot of problems. They didn't have – Tannehill had no time to throw the football. Tannehill was not on the same page with the receivers. 3 interceptions. The receivers got eaten up. And, of course, the Tannehill wasn't on the field in the preseason. Derrick Henry only had 14 rushing yards in the second half. This is a team that scored more than 21 points only 3 times last year. They scored 17 or less than 17, 6 their last 7 last year, and then again yesterday. One low-scoring, tight game after the next, what Vrabel wants to do. That's not what the Chargers want to do. So side and total may well be related in this ballgame. Worth noting, the quote from Dennis Allen about Tennessee's defense. Quote, obviously, that's a good front, the way we played. We knew it was going to be difficult to run the ball. Mike Vrabel. We want to be a great defense. We have to be a great defense all the time. Of course, Vrabel, with a decision I understood at the time to kick the field goal and then give the ball back to New Orleans, cutting the lead to 1 because that offense couldn't score a touchdown. If the defense could have got unstopped, maybe they steal the game. Instead, Vrabel's quote, we tried to put the game in the defense's hands. I thought we got to stop. We made the decision to kick. Didn't work out that way. Tennessee covers, no wins. They're the better defensive team at home catching points, but the home field not worth all that much right about now.
Yeah, Teddy, like the breakdown, man. Side and total definitely seem correlated in this one. Green Bay and Atlanta. Next game up, 265, 266, 1 o'clock Eastern kick. 40.5 being the total here, Teddy. Seeing a pick 'em and seeing a -1. That's the Packers as a short road favorite. Can get both of the numbers right now on the WagerTalk Live odds screen. We get the Pack and the Dirty Birds. What are we thinking in Mercedes-Benz?
Yeah, we've seen a little bit of Atlanta money and a little bit of under money in this ballgame. Look headline, Falcons -1.5. My powering number after week 1, Green Bay -1. The markets opened 1 and 41.5 last night. And again, I don't use any one book. I use the broader market. When I say what the market's opened as, I usually write these down 6, 7, 8 o'clock Pacific time on Sunday night in that range. But anyhow, so the opener was Atlanta as the favorite. Look ahead was Atlanta as the favorite. The opener came Green Bay as the favorite -1, and now the markets are kind of shifting around. It's mostly pick'ems out there. There still are some Green Bay -1. The 41.5 has been bet down to 40. Solid defensive showing for the Packers yesterday. There's a lot of speed on that defense. They made the moves this offseason defensively that they put the money on the defense that they didn't put on the offense. And the young receivers stepped up, as did Jordan Love. Look, they went 9 for 16 on third downs. They were +2 in turnovers. They scored touchdowns on all 3 of their red zone appearances. Matt LaFleur quote after the game, talking about Green Bay and what we might want to think about the team chemistry. Remember, there wasn't a lot of love between Aaron Rodgers and anyone in that locker room last year. Certainly not the younger guys. Jordan Love's their guy. LaFleur's quote, there's a big-time belief. Excuse me. There's a big-time belief in that locker room for Jordan Love, and I think the guys are going to rally around him. They're excited for him. They love him. They respect him. Positive for Green Bay, which is a good thing. The clients and I have the Packers over 7.5 wins as the 5% big ticket play so far. So good in that regard. For Atlanta, look, I mean, they won by 2 touchdowns yesterday, and it was about as ugly as a 2-touchdown win. That was, the defense was there. We'll give them credit in that. The skill position talent was there. Bijan Robinson was unbelievable in that ballgame. They were +3 in turnovers. That was the difference. But Desmond Ridder, on a scale of 1 to 10, was pretty close to a 1 yesterday. He had time. He didn't throw downfield. There was nobody open for him to throw to. And over and over and over again, we saw the same thing. Ridder dropped back, Ridder looking around, Ridder holding the ball, Ridder scrambling for his life. Either the receivers suck, or Ridder sucks, or maybe both, or Carolina's defense is really good. But that was a very concerning offensive showing for Atlanta yesterday. Only 13 first downs in that ballgame. That's a big concern for this bet.
Teddy, next game up, we get Indianapolis and Houston, 267, 268, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific kick. 40 flat being the total, down from the opener of 41, -1 across the board. There is one key offshore showing -1.5. That's the Texans as the home favorites hosting the Colts.
Yeah, look headline, Houston -2.5. My powering number is 1. The market's opened, I'll call it 1.5 and 40. And as you mentioned, it's mostly 1s right now. There are still a couple of 1.5s out there in the marketplace. And there were some positive things for Indy. I mean, the defensive line played really well. DeForest Buckner, Kwity Paye. I mean, they're going to get sacks. But the back 7 on defense still has some question marks. This team had 34 giveaways last year, dead last in the NFL by far. They were 6 worse than the number 31 team in terms of giveaways. And they gave the ball away again yesterday with the rookie quarterback. They have big-time cluster injuries at running back. Obviously, you don't have Jonathan Taylor. We don't have Zach Moss right now. Evan Hull left with a knee injury yesterday, so they were down to a guy they signed off the practice squad at running back. And of course, Shane Steichen, who was really aggressive in Philadelphia, 0-2 on fourth down tries in the first half, 0-1 in the second half. He was really aggressive with his young quarterback, and he wasn't trusting his defense. I was a little bit surprised by that. And it's worth noting, Richardson left the game after a hard hit. He's a question mark this week. If Gardner Minshew plays, money will come for the Colts, not against them. They couldn't run the football, 16 carries for 25 yards for the running backs. And they, again, when you score a defensive touchdown on a bizarre play and you still lose by double digits, yeah, the markets aren't real excited about the Colts necessarily right here. The Texans, well, they weren't very exciting. I like the Mecco Ryans, man. I really do. And C.J. Stroud, he only threw 10 pass attempts longer than 9 yards. It was mostly dink and dunk. Stroud's quote, it wasn't what we wanted. I got to be better overall, make more plays and protect the football. I got to be better in the huddle and things like that. He wasn't sounding real confident. And that being said, Ryans, for his first time out, CJ was in a tough place to play, which is basically not throwing your QB over under the bus, but saying that he stunk. Offensively, they did. Defensively, a couple of concerns. Their top two safeties are both hurt, and defensive tackle Hassan Ridgeway injured his calf. No sure thing to play this week. So injury concerns for Houston. All kinds of concerns for Indy. Neither one of these teams yesterday made me think in any way, shape, or form that they're going to be winning ball clubs in 2023.
Teddy, you brought up an interesting, I think a unique situation where Gardner Minshew, if he plays, you said, hey, money might come in on the Colts, the backup,
yes,
actually getting a little bit more respect. Kind of a unique situation, though. Do you see that a lot in the past in the NFL?
Not a lot, no. Only if it's a rookie starter and the backup's a veteran. That's the time we'll see it. And that's a could. That's not a will. That's a could. Richardson made some nice plays yesterday. Made some nice throws. He went over his passing yards total. But he made a lot of mistakes. And that's what you got. There's going to be good and bad with Richardson every week. You can count on it. He's that kind of, he has the upside, but there's going to be mistakes.
Absolutely, Teddy. As we move down the list here, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific slate. Seattle Seahawks, Detroit Lions. Next game we have 49 now the total. Tick down in the total in the overnight market, Teddy, -5.5. That is the Lions at home. So we get Seahawks at Lions next up.
Look headline here, Detroit -3. I made a big adjustment on both these teams after week one. My powering number here was 6. And the markets, there were 6s last night. It's mostly 5.5 today. Total 51 last night. That has been bet down this morning pretty heavily. And frankly, I would not get some more. That being said, let's do it. We haven't had an emergency betting alert all summer. Let's get it in right here, right now. Yeah, we've seen under money pouring in on Seahawks, Lions. Seattle's offense didn't work at all in week one. Detroit's defense certainly did. So if you like this under, there is urgency. The 49s that are already down from the 51s at the open. No surprise here. We see more under money in this one. And, Seattle had 12 yards. What did they have? 12 yards of the offense, 1 first down in the second half of that ball game. Geno had 28 dropbacks for 95 net yards. And Smith and Njigba played. There were concerns where they're going to have their whole receiving core. They did. They got outgained 257-12 in the second half by LA. DK Metcalf, quote, you never want to see another team or the opposing team, especially someone in your own division, play harder than you. I'm sure there's lots of mistakes that we have to clean up. Of all the teams yesterday, the one I was most surprised by was the Seahawks. They stunk. There was nothing good about Seattle. The defense was bad. The offense was bad. Maybe we give the Rams some credit, but I think it was more Seattle bad than LA good. And, of course, they lost both their starting tackles on offense to injuries in that ball game. Abraham Lucas, Charles Cross, check those injury situations. That probably another reason why we're seeing the under money pour in here. And we all saw Detroit on Thursday night. Here's a quote from Dan Campbell. I didn't learn anything. I got verification on what I already knew. This is a resilient team. It already was a resilient team. We've added pieces to the resilient team, so we're built to handle some stuff. Do that today against a very good opponent. CJ Gardner-Johnson. I love this quote. This means this ain't the same. Detroit, I keep reiterating that. From the joint practices, all the other practices, winners know what winners look like. This team is full of winners. Being on teams that's been successful, I'm just happy to be a part of guys that want to play ball, go out here and get a W. No matter who's out there on the field or what's on the clock, these guys are going to fight. Shit, we're all going to fight. You can bet on quotes. Seattle stunk. Do we overreact? Do we underreact? We'll see. Meanwhile, money coming in on the under.
271, 272. Next game up, Chicago Bears, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific kick. 42 being the total, -3. That's the Bucs and Raymond James here, Teddy.
Yeah, look ahead line here with Chicago -1.5. My powering number is Tampa 1, and the markets are at 3. More money continues to come on the Bucs. I understand Tampa won, Chicago lost. I don't understand the Justin Fields hate. I don't. I watch him play a lot. I think he's good. I think he's really good. There were plays yesterday. The offense should have went off the field. There was a third down stack. Instead, they made 3 guys miss, and it's a first down drive leads to a touchdown. I don't love the coaching here. They're getting out every second half. They're getting slapped around, especially on defense. They allowed 3 touchdowns and 3 red zone tries. Only 3 of 13 on third down. They've lost now 11 straight overall. Eddie Jackson, quote, "You've just got to let the truth soak in. As much as it hurts, as bad as it feels, we got to come out. There's still 16 more games left. We got to come out tomorrow, look at the film, put the corrections in, and have our mindset that we just can't ever let that happen again." They hyped up DJ Moore and Chase Claypool as the new receiving core. Between them, they had 4 targets, 2 catches, 25 yards, non-factors. Moore, quote, "This game was hyped up. We didn't bring the juice and the hype to the party, and we lost." Yeah, Chicago, in theory, has a better game than the one they just played. And while Fields has taken all the heat for all of the Bears' issues, I'll take him as the quarterback on my team. Look, the Bucs were outgained by more than 100 yards, but they had no turnovers, and Minnesota had 3. And Baker Mayfield did lead a game-winning drive, so there is that positive for Tampa Bay, but I'm not convinced the Bucs are a team I'm going to lay points with it. You ask me where the value is in this game, it's on the Chicago side.
Heading to Buffalo, New York with the next game up. And, of course, the Bills playing tonight against the Jets. So if you like the Bills tonight, something we've learned from this show in the past, maybe look them at two bets, bet them next week. And if you're looking to fade them tonight, maybe look to fade them next week as well. We'll get Teddy's thoughts on that. Las Vegas at Buffalo, 48 being the total I'm seeing at most sports books now, Teddy. -9 in the hook. That's the Bills as the home favorite.
Yeah, look ahead line here. Bills -9.5. My powering number going into Monday Night Football. Bills -9. The market's open. There were more 10s than 9.5s last night. So there has been a legit move here because this was a 10 last night. 47.5 really hasn't done a whole lot. And as you mentioned, if the Bills don't look good this evening, we're likely to see some Raiders money. If the Bills win and cover and look just fine, I still don't think it gets steamed. So, if you ask me which of the two sides is more important to bet now, if you like it, I'd say the Raiders side, because people are going to look at Buffalo on the short week going against Vegas off a divisional Monday Night Football game and say letdown. So I don't see that the markets are going to go nuts on Buffalo, even if they look good this evening. And obviously they'll play tonight. For the Raiders, Jacoby Myers, Devontae Adams. What happened to Hunter Renfrow and Austin Hooper in that offense? If you had the Raiders yesterday, and I had a free play on the Raiders, I had a little Raider bet in my pocket. That game it made you insane. All right, they made 1,000 mistakes. Jimmy G, first and goal at the 1. Jimmy G fumbles the snap, ends up with an interception on the same drive. All kinds of passes off target, not hitting anyone in rhythm, and yet Jimmy G made all the plays when he had to, and he's smart. They had a roughing the punter call in the fourth quarter to extend a Broncos drive. Stupid mistakes, penalties galore all game. They had conditioning issues in the fourth quarter at Mile High, and they still found a way to win. The defense got stops when they had to. Devontae Adams, it ain't going to be pretty. You just got to get it done. Yeah, the Raiders, they didn't go up in my power ratings after yesterday's victory. It was not a pretty performance, but they do walk away with the W and a little bit of confidence for a team that found ways to lose almost every game like that last year.
Next game up, Teddy, we'll head to North Florida. We get the Kansas City Chiefs and the Jacksonville Jaguars. 275, 276, -2 in the hook. That's the Chiefs as the road favorite. 51 being the total in North Florida here, Teddy.
Yeah, and I'm gonna interlude for just a moment because I want to talk about the YouTube comments because you guys were awesome last week. You guys put up a ton of comments. That's the metric we're looking at. All the likes, all the follows, we appreciate. But if you guys can get into YouTube and just talk about the games you like, talk about an opinion you agree with me or disagree with me, say hi to the guys. That's awesome. I appreciate it. And I was in the chat in the YouTube comments multiple times last week trying to answer everybody's questions. I'll do that again this week. But that really helps our metric. More than 10,000 of you guys watched the opening line report last week. And that number's only going up. So we really appreciated those metrics really help us. So thank you for all the comments. And like I said, I'll go in again this week and really try multiple times to answer as many questions and comments as we have. Chiefs and the Jaguars. Look headline, Kansas City -2.5. My powering number, Kansas City -2.5. The market's open. Kansas City -2.5. Total 50.5. Right now, look at the WagerTalk live odds screen. There's some threes starting to pop. 2.5 still the prevailing number. 51 the prevailing total right now. We've seen a little bit of over money. We don't know yet what tab's going to happen to Travis Kelce. So when we get Kelce status, that will move this line. You know, Patrick Mahomes talking about Kelce's absence. Quote, it's going to have an impact on the game, but other guys have to step up. They're going to have to step up in moments. Sure, there'll be times that he gets doubled. So we're going to have to rely on those other guys that are young and talented to step up and make plays. And I believe that they will. Now, obviously, Kadarius Toney had a rough game. Sky Moore wasn't great. And Mahomes, 10 of 22 throwing to wide receivers, 46%. That's his worst completion percentage to wideouts in his 35 career games, which he's accepted at least 20 passes. All right, their leading receiver was running back Isaiah Pacheco, who had 4. That's a concern. Now, obviously, we know KC Super Bowl team, they've been elite forever and ever. That was not an elite performance on the opening night of the season. Jacksonville did a lot of things right yesterday. I mean, look, the offensive line is a big concern. And then Brandon Sheriff got hurt, although he did return in that ballgame, but I got to check his status. They couldn't run the football particularly well, but they're loaded. I mean, they're in terms of skill position weapons on offense, in terms of playmakers on defense, Jacksonville Jaguars, from a talent standpoint, they're there. And again, they held the running backs to the 25 yards. They allowed a defensive touchdown on a bizarre play and still won by double digits. Jags are finding a way to win games right now. And this line hasn't hit 3. It might be telling the markets of that. There's just not that much respect for KC right now.
Teddy, next game up is the last 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific kick here, 277, 278. It's the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. This line pops out to me as a little bit head-scratching, and it's the Bengals, -3.5 at home, 46.5 being the total. Ravens look good week 1, Bengals not so much, and we're seeing the Bengals laying more than a field goal. What are your thoughts here, Ravens and Bengals, Teddy?
So I disagree. I don't think Baltimore looked good at all yesterday. I thought Baltimore like Atlanta, a team that won and covered and didn't look good doing it. Look headline, Cincy 3.5, which is where the markets are now. My powering number is right there with you. Cincy -1.5. Markets open 3 last night, 45.5. We've seen over money. We've seen Cincy money. I don't think we're going to see more necessarily for either of the two, certainly not right away. Hence, there's no emergency betting alert for this ball games. The Ravens got crushed with injuries yesterday. J.K. Dobbins out for the year. Ronnie Stanley, the left tackle, gets hurt. The center, Tyler Linderbaum, gets hurt. The safety, Marcus Williams, gets hurt. The cornerback, Marlon Humphrey's already hurt. That's 5 key guys for them, and not the skill position guys, but your secondary is banged up and your offensive line is banged up. When 2/5 of your offensive line with key guys are real dicey, that's a problem. 13 penalties for 106 yards, -1 turnover. Ravens weren't that good yesterday. And Harbaugh, who normally has these great preseasons and comes out in the week 1 and crushes everyone, they had the right opponent to crush. I downgraded Baltimore in my power rating off yesterday's win. I downgraded Cincinnati as well. Look, they had 6 first downs, 2 of 15 on 3rd down, 0 of 1 on 4th. Burrow, 67 net yards on 32 attempts. That's 2 yards per pass attempt for Burrow. They were +2 in turnovers and still didn't do anything. And look, the guy just signed a $275 million extension. You don't have to do anything anymore. Burrow's quote, it's tough. It's 1 week, not up to our standard, not up to my standard. We'll keep trucking since he was a slow starting team last year. I'm surprised by I'm not surprised because of the Baltimore injuries. But again, my powering number is on the other side of the 3 here. He allowed 206 rushing yards, Cincy. And Burrow couldn't handle the blitz. They blitzed him more than half the dropbacks in the first half. He didn't get anything done. I got my concerns about Cincinnati. I won't be laying this week. But again, we're looking in general. We want 0-1 teams against 1-0 teams. Cincy's the 0-1 team in this particular matchup. The markets will absolutely, throughout the whole, look up and down the screen. The markets are betting on the 0-1 teams, the must-win teams, against the fat and happy 1-0 teams. And it's not universal, but that's what's going on right now as the broader issue in the betting marketplace following week 1.
Good point with the Ravens and the injuries, Teddy. And just a follow-up question to your 0-1, 1-0, is that straight up or against the spread or both that the market's kind of in tune to?
The markets like that straight up, but the markets love the markets like an 0-1 straight up, 0-1 ATS team a lot more than they like a 1-0 straight up, 1-0 ATS.
Next game up, we got 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific for the next 5 games. New York Giants, Arizona Cardinals. -4.5. There are -5s out there. That's the G-Men as the road favorite. 38-ish being the total. Intriguing handicap here, Teddy. Giants getting blown out primetime on the road. Lowest power rated team by most, the Arizona Cardinals. What are you thinking in the desert?
Yeah, so you don't often see a team look like the Giants did last night on national TV, and then they're going on the road the following week and laying 4.5 or 5 points. But that speaks to where the markets are on Arizona right now. All right. Look headline, Giants -5.5. My powering number after the debacle yesterday, Giants -5.5. The opener more in the 4.5 range, and that's still where it's sitting. Total of 38. They were 38.5 this morning. They're gone. Mostly 38s out there right now. And, what do we say about the Giants? The offensive line it was really one unit. The offensive line got destroyed. They allowed 7 sacks. Daniel Jones was flustered throughout. There was no offense run for the G-Men. It was pretty ugly. 2.6 yards per play, -3 turnovers. This shouldn't be a defensive line that is that bad, or an offensive line that is that bad in theory. But Arizona's strength, man, their defensive line was good yesterday. They have 27 new players in the 53-man roster. They have cluster injury problems at safety, but they were taken away, and Dobbs couldn't throw the football, 114 net passing yards on 33 dropbacks. No chance on 3rd and long. No chance on the 2-minute drive with the game on the line. There's no downfield passing attack for Arizona. But maybe the defense is better than advertised. They had a fumble 6 yesterday. Zayvon Collins was a monster. Lots of penalties. It looked like a rookie coaching staff. Again, first year, first time head coach, first year, first time offensive coordinator, first year, first time defense coordinator. There's a reason the markets have hated Arizona all this offseason. In theory, it's supposed to be a bounce back spot for the Giants. We'll see if they get there.
Next game up, 281, 282, San Francisco 49ers at the LA Rams. We are seeing 49ers -8 point road favorites, 44.5 being the total. Niners at Rams, Teddy.
Yeah, let's get that emergency betting alert ready for this one as well. We've missed most of it, but it may well still go higher. Look ahead line here. San Fran -6 against LA. My powering number, San Fran -7 against LA. The market's open 7 and 42. Now we're seeing 8s. They're 8.5 starting to pop up. No team looked better in the NFL than the San Francisco 49ers did yesterday. They were absolutely dominant against a team that people liked. Remember what a great preseason Pittsburgh had. San Fran, only allowed 3.9 yards per play. They had 5 sacks. They looked like the best team in the NFL on both sides of the ball, and the market's absolutely adjusting to that. Yeah, San Fran is, if San Fran's not number 1 in your power ratings right now, ahead of Kansas City, ahead of whoever, then your powering number is different from mine. But the Niners look really good yesterday. And Brock Purdy, the layoff didn't matter, it seemed, at all. The Rams, this is a team that had 23 players in the injury reserve at the end of last year. They went 5-12, the worst record ever for defending Super Bowl champs. They still have a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And boy, he mattered yesterday. Matthew Stafford was brilliant in that ball game. All right. Second half yards, 257-12. Complete domination on both sides of the ball on the road in Seattle for a team that wasn't supposed to be very good. And the markets are going, yeah, they're still the Rams. You're not any good. Stafford, quote, I think we're excited because we put the work in. The cherry on top of this is getting to see y'all reaction to it. I think the big thing for us, though, is that we care about it because we put the work in. It wasn't given to us. Sean McVay, I could care less what's said outside. Maybe some change in narratives. That doesn't affect the way we'll go about our business right now. For as good as LA looked yesterday, the market's saying that with Seattle looking bad. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. San Fran's taking the money. They may well continue to take money. Week 2 divisional underdogs, not as good as week 1 divisional underdogs. And the Rams, a team that may well be power. The markets are saying if you raise your power rating on the Rams, maybe you not tap it down a notch. Concerns for LA even after yesterday's big win.
Yeah, maybe tamp it down a little bit. The divisional home dogs, Teddy, but that is I believe it was just 1 and 2, and then we got the Monday nighter tonight. So I some of those trends are good over the long term, but at times, you got to remember it's not always, going to get you in the green, so to speak. Speaking of tonight's game, we got the Jets for next week here, catching 3.5 at the Dallas Cowboys. That's the next game up here, guys. 283, 284, 45 being the total. Minus 3.5. That's the Cowboys as the home favorite. Although there is kind of a split line here, Teddy. The global market just at -3. A lot of other books minus 3.5. That's the Cowboys as the home favorite.
Yeah, I'm seeing more 3.5s than 3s. Look at line here was Dallas 3. My powering number is Dallas 4. Last night there were 3 -20s. There were 3.5. There were 45s. It was all, and look at it. But really, we're seeing 3.5 today, and I'm not surprised. I mean, pretty solid defensive showing. We look at Dan Quinn's defense. Since 2021, when Quinn took over, Cowboys 10 defensive touchdowns, including one yesterday. That's tied with the Patriots for the most defensive scores during that time. And they played 35 games. In 22 of those games, 22 of the 35 under Dan Quinn as DC. They've had multiple takeaways. That's more than any other team. Yesterday against the G-Men, 2.6 yards per play allowed, plus 3 turnovers. They did it on national TV. I'm not convinced you're going to get bargains backing the Cowboys. But if the Jets look good tonight, you might get a bargain back in the Cowboys. The markets react fairly heavily to the TV games on Sunday and Monday Night Football.
Teddy, and just to get that right, it was 22 of 35 games under Dan Quinn. They've created multiple turnovers. That's the stat?
Correct. Yes.
Love that. Because I think people say, turnovers are just random. I'm like, I don't know, man. I think sometimes defense, out there with the mindset to turn your opponent over, I think there's something to that. It's a little more repeatable than at least I hear sometimes in the betting kind of content space anyway. So love that stat. 22 of the last 35.
All right, so gives me a chance to bring up a point here. The betting markets are going to look at turnovers and call it turnover luck,
right?
Especially the first couple of weeks of the season. Savvy bettors can be aware of which teams are more likely to win the turnover battle. Doesn't mean it's going to work every week, but I really try not to call it turnover luck, especially early in the season. You can take a look and see which teams are likely to turn the ball over, what matchups, and you're looking for problematic matchups at the line of scrimmage and problematic matchups in the secondary. And if you can find those matchups, you can, not 100% of the time, not even 80% of the time, but you can predict who's going to win some turnover battles more often than not.
Yeah, try to be on the right side of some of these, stack the chips in your favor type of bet, guys. Is last afternoon kick up next here, Teddy. 4:25 Eastern, 1:25 Pacific kick. 285-286 Washington at Denver. 39 being the total. -3 in the hook. That's the Broncos a mile high, Teddy.
Yeah. Look ahead line here. Denver -3.5. My powering number is only Denver -3. I didn't. I continue not to be in love with the Broncos. Markets open 3.5 and 40. We've seen under money come in 39, even 38.5 right now. Although I'm not seeing urgency on that number. The move off of 40 is already come and gone. So there's no emergency betting alert for this one. Look, the Commanders were laying a touchdown yesterday, and you watch that offense. This is not a let's lay a touchdown with them offense. Eric Bieniemy was not pleased. This is a team that had 23 giveaways last year. Sam Howell looked very limited. The offensive line was a long way from elite. He had a sack fumble 6. He nearly threw a pick 6 the next drive. Washington offensively has got, Howell even said it. Offensively, could have played a lot better. Turnovers, penalties, sacks, just a lot of things I could do better. A lot to clean up on the offensive side of the ball. Just 202 yards passing. He was sacked 6 times. He threw a pick. He had a fumble recovered for a touchdown. It was not a good offensive performance for Washington. And Denver's defense is pretty good. Defensively, he was a monster. Darren Payne, Montez Sweat, 7 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 recoveries. They blew up the line of scrimmage again and again. That may well be a problem for Denver. And Denver and the Raiders played this incredibly short game. Teams had 6 drives each. Long, slow, dinky-dunky drives. Neither one could get the other one off the field. Russell Wilson was all dinky-dunky. 36 dropbacks, 166 net yards. He only threw for 52 yards in the second half. They had special teams issues. That were a problem for Denver. They had a hold that negated a long return. They had a botched onside kick to open the game. They had 2 big misses from Will Lutz, who Peyton's he cut McManus and brought Lutz in from New Orleans, and then Lutz missed a couple of kicks that ended up being the difference in the game. But of all the bad things from Denver yesterday, this is the one that stood out to me. Here's the quote from Russell Wilson after the game. After Denver just lost for the 7th straight time against the Raiders in a division matchup after a dismal season last year, what do you want your quarterback to say? Not this. Quote, "I feel great. The only thing that's disappointing is that we didn't come up with a win tonight." There's Russell Wilson for you. Exactly.
Yeah. I feel great after a win coming from the quarterback. That is a tough one to hear, Teddy. Guys, couple games left here. NFL opening line report, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, each and every Monday on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. If you could help us out, smash that like button. Like Teddy talked about earlier, guys, leave us a comment below where you agree, where you disagree, your thoughts on how we're kind of looking at these games and different trends that matter. All is welcome in the comment section. I'll be in there throughout the week, starting this afternoon. Teddy as well. So fire away in the comments section, guys. It does help us out in the algorithm. We got Sunday night up next, Teddy. 287-288. Miami Dolphins, New England Patriots here. AFC East battle. -2 at most sports books as we're talking early in the week here. That is the Dolphins as the road favorite. People bringing up travel. Doesn't matter. West Coast down to Florida, up to the Northeast. We'll find out. 47 being the total. Dolphins at Patriots here in Gillette, Teddy.
And it's worth noting, okay, look ahead line, Dolphins -2. Powering number, Dolphins -2.5. Markets open, Dolphins -2. That said, it's emergency betting alert time right here, right now. Dan? This one was top. 45.5 last night. I'm seeing 47s. Now, that's being said, there are still 47s out there. It's on a one-way freight train up to 48 or higher. You like the over between Miami and New England. I bet it's sooner rather than later. And it's worth noting, if you've been paying attention during the show, the look-ahead line blank, my powering number blank, current number blank. The look-ahead lines from last week and the week 1 results, they didn't move a whole lot of numbers. Detroit, Seattle's the one number that really moved from the look-ahead lines. That's it. Everything else is very within a point or even a half point of what we expected, what the markets expected a week ago. So that's really the only one that moved significantly was Detroit, Seattle. Lions look so good, Seahawks look so bad. When it comes to Miami and New England, look, there were lots of things to love about Miami yesterday. 466 passing yards on 45 dropbacks, 0 sacks. They had 2 red zone turnovers. They overcame the 2 red zone turnovers. Tua. It was validating for me because I don't feel crazy. That's kind of what I expected to happen. So these are all positive signs. Miami, a tough game on the road, found a way to win it, found a way to overcome turnovers. Yeah, but they got gashed defensively every which way. Every which way. All right, they give up. They had 9 offensive plays of at least 21 yards. That ain't happening against the Patriots defense. I can tell you that flat out right now. And when you give up 200 on the ground, 200 through the air from your rebuilt defense that's supposed to be dominant, concerns. The Patriots were better than the Eagles for most of the game yesterday. You know, they were down 16-0, gave 13 of them because they off early turnovers. The defense held up, forcing 3-and-outs. Again, I talked about earlier. Philly had more 3-and-outs in a row yesterday than they had in any game last year against the Pats defense. They held the Eagles just 9 points after the first quarter. 251 total yards for Philly. That's a solid defensive team, but the offense found a rhythm after a tough start. Mac Jones looked awful early, and then he got cranked. But definitely issues when it comes to the offensive line for New England, both starting guards inactive yesterday. They started rookies at both left and right guard. That could be a problem here. And Mac Jones, not, again, the most important portion of play of football is a 2-point conversion, which New England got it in, and then it was called back on a penalty, and then it wasn't. But Mac Jones, quote, I feel like in the most critical times, I played my worst. I know I can do it. I've done it before. I let the defense down. I'll have to live with that. There's urgency for New England this week. Miami might be a little bit fat and happy.
2 games left, guys, both on Monday, September 18th. We're hitting them now. New Orleans Saints, Carolina Panthers, 41 being the total. It's now Saints all -3 across the board. Last night there was some 2.5s here, Teddy. And I got to throw out a stat here. Maybe remember it for last year, Teddy. The number 1 pick in the NFL draft at the quarterback position is now 0-14 against the spread in his first stat. I love that one. It came to fruition with the Atlanta Falcons yesterday over the Carolina Panthers. Just wanted to throw that one out, Teddy. But Saints, Panthers, Monday night, the first of 2 games next Monday.
Yeah, we got to doodly-oop one more because this one, you can get a line right now that I'm not convinced is going to be there for all that much longer. 4 emergency betting alerts. Saints, Panthers. Look ahead line. New Orleans -1.5. My powering number. New Orleans -2.5. Markets open 3. The markets are moving rapidly to 3.5. It's already 3 minus juice in some spots. There are 3.5s that are starting to pop up. New Orleans will be the choice here, especially given the Panthers. There's some offensive concerns right now for Carolina, as you mentioned, with the rookie QB. So we are seeing Saints money. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more Saints money. The Saints were a popular team in the betting markets this past offseason. That being said, Saints' offensive line didn't hold up very well yesterday. Derek Carr took 4 sacks, threw a pick, got flattened by a form of the face, but he did make plays down the stretch to win the ball games. Quote, that was one of the more physical games I played in my 10 years. We showed that we could win the ultimate physical type of ball game. Of course, Saints defense didn't give up a touchdown. They did block a punt in that ballgame. Marshawn Lattimore, our defense is something special. One of the best defense, if not the best defense in the league. And that might be a problem for Carolina. Look, Bryce Young's the 9th different starting quarterback for Carolina since 2018. There's no chemistry there. When it comes to the receiving core, Hayden Hurst and Terrence Marshall were the guys. That's not a duo. Now, Carolina's defense was pretty good. And I still, we're going to learn whether it was Ritter, whether it was Ritter's receiver, or whether it was Panthers secondary. But there was nobody open for Atlanta all game. Defense looked solid. There was some swagger. The defensive line was in the backfield. The run game worked. The offensive line held up. They ran the ball all day. But they were -3 in turnovers. And on 40 net dropbacks, Bryce Young had 127 net yards. That's not good enough. You're not going to win games like that. Home opener here. That said, Saints, they've already taken money. They may well take more. If you like New Orleans, bet it sooner rather than later.
Guys, we got 1 game left. Reminder, please comment below. It does help us out with the algorithm. Let us know what your thoughts are on the show and smash that like button. Teddy covers Drew Martin, NFL opening line report. Last game up for week 2 here, Teddy. Cleveland and Pittsburgh. We've seen the Browns -1.5. Some shops showing -2 as the short home favorite. 40.5 the total in the Steel City.
Cleveland's a road favorite. That's how much the markets crashed on Pittsburgh after yesterday. Look headline was Steelers -1. My powering number is Pick'em. The market's open. Cleveland won, and we've seen steady Cleveland money. I'm not convinced it's going to 3. I'm not convinced it's going any higher than 2, but 1.5, 2, the prevailing number. Not the keyest of numbers in the NFL. That's it if you want to get it. I wouldn't, if you want to, I don't see it going higher right about now. Although, again, Pittsburgh looked so bad yesterday, and Pittsburgh had a great preseason and an awful week 1. The Browns had a dominant defensive showing yesterday. They allowed 6 first downs, 2 of 15 on third downs. Burrow had 67 net yards. They were -2 in turnovers and still won and covered with room to spare. They had 206 rushing yards. The defensive line dominated the game. All right. That said, they lost starting right tackle Jack Conklin. Looks like he's out for the year. He signed a 4-year contract extension in December. There's going to be a rookie coming in, Steven Stefanski. You actually hate to see those things on guys that are such a big part of who we are. That's a concern for me. Pittsburgh just ran up against what looks like the best team in the NFL from a power rating standpoint. Kenny Pickett got sacked 5 times. The running backs had 9 carries. They had 35 yards, 24 of which came on 1 run. The offensive line did not hold up against a good defensive front. And, they're playing a good defensive front again this week. That's why we're seeing the Cleveland money. Mike Tomlin, quote, "We got kicked in the teeth today in a lot of ways on both sides of the ball." This is an offense that scored touchdowns on all 5 of their preseason drives, first stringers. They had 1 net yard of offense the first 5 drives in the regular season against the defense that came to play. So the markets are crashing on Pittsburgh right about now. Might be a buy low opportunity if you do like the Steelers.
He's Teddy Covers. I'm Drew Martin. Check him out, WagerTalk.com. 5% big ticket plays, 64 and 36, 64%. All the way back since 2021, guys. He's hot right now, 22 and 12, 65% all sports run. We got $9 Monday on Mondays, WagerTalk.com. Teddy and myself, Drew Martin, in with some action. So check it out at the website. And hey, we'll be back next Monday for the NFL opening line report. But Teddy, I'd like to throw it back to you, man. Any final thoughts here before we shut this week 2 NFL opening line report down?
Sure. So week 2 is about reactions and overreactions. Our goal is react when it's appropriate to react, but don't overreact to everything. The markets tend to overreact to a lot of things. We're going to try to remember which teams we thought were going to be good and just had a bad game versus the teams that we know are going to be good or bad, and take advantage accordingly. So thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate all the likes, all the follows, all the comments. Teddy_covers on Twitter, at Drew Martin Bets on Twitter. And have a great week. Thank you. Enjoy the games.
All right, guys, that does it. Thanks for tuning in. Cash those tickets. We'll be back next week.